This might seem like a strange type comparison. However, as many in the comment sections of various INFJ and INTP videos mention, it's a surprisingly common mistype. First, here are some of the broad similarities. They're both introverts, both intuitive types, both devalue extroverted sensing and extroverted thinking in various ways, both value introverted thinking, are both intellectual, contemplative, and philosophical in their vibe, and both fall into the archetype of wise advisor vibes. The most noticeable thing they have in common is that they come across similarly. They have a gentle, pensive, and cerebral demeanour. Neither will be in your face, boisterous, or aggressive, almost ever, even when angry. Despite being entirely capable of harshness and brutal honesty, INTPs are typically quite, well, nice with people. Things only get testy when people start saying stupid stuff, which, to be fair, is quite a common occurrence. And this is the first big difference between them. INTPs, contrary to many descriptions, are not ignorant or dismissive of FE concerns. It's simply that they get suppressed by TI when the choice is between the two. INFJs, by comparison, will know their own views, their own logic, reasons, and rationale, but will feel less conflicted about putting that aside in the moment. It's important to realize the instinctive nature of these things. Cognitive functions describe preferences. They can't just be conscious, intentional desires. They have to be almost, or literally, physiological. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sustainable. When an INTP is torn between telling the truth as they see it versus appeasing someone's snowflakey sensitivities, it causes them a kind of physical discomfort, a gnawing need to outwith the truth. INFJs feel an equal need to suppress those stabbing pains that friction and discord provoke. It is how they're wired. Ask yourself, to what extent do you see tongue biting as implicitly valuable? In other words, do you see harmony as something that would be a good thing to bring about for logical reasons, or does it simply feel good to you? Here are 4 categories I find very useful for the types. We have IJ, EP, IP, and EJ. The IJ types are characterized by a desire for control. This varies depending on the specific IJ type in question. An ISTJ, for example, might be far more controlling of their external environment, but it's a commonality between them. What they dislike is uncertainty and chaos. They are in a constant fight with those things. The IJ types are people who, to some degree, feel like they mainly swim against the tide in life. So, an INFJ will always want as much certainty and control as they can have. One of the reasons they're seen as a forward-thinking type is because, in the most literal sense, they think about what's coming next so often in order to minimize the number of uncertain variables. The more they can imagine the future, the less chance they're going to be caught out by something or overwhelmed. INTPs are not going to be this way. They don't have that same need for control. They have a pathological need to know, but that isn't the same thing. INTPs are much more in the go-with-the-flow mold. Both types will come across as chilled out or laid back, but INFJs are far more preoccupied with minimizing chaos, confusion, and disorder in their lives. Ask yourself, would the people in my life describe me as controlled or even overly controlled? Am I someone who dislikes chaos and uncertainty and deals with those things by trying to know as much as possible ahead of time? Or am I more willing to go with the flow of life? Intuition. NI versus NE. INTPs are NE users, whereas INFJs are NI users. They're both intuitive types, but have a preference for different kinds of intuition. The process of using NE is often described as branching. It's about starting off with an initial premise, then extrapolating and brainstorming from there. It's about branching outwards, generating possibilities. It's expansive in nature. It gains comfort from options, and resists being restricted and limited. The process of NI happens in the opposite direction. It's about taking many different data points and finding the underlying commonalities between them, sometimes drawing a line of best fit between data points, finding connections between seemingly unrelated things. But mainly, it's about reducing complexity. It's about simplifying things, getting to answers and conclusions. In this sense, NI gains comfort from settling on something. So you could almost see NE and NI as the same process, just moving in the reverse direction of each other. If you have a high NI and NE user working together on a project, both types are going to be great at generating ideas. I wouldn't say that either intuition is better at this. They're equally good. However, the high NI user will want to narrow down much sooner than the high NE user, if the high NE user wants to narrow down at all. This can either be a big clash or a perfect complementarity. The NI user will be choosing the direction, and the NE user can always be brought in when there are roadblocks or different perspectives are needed. Outcome versus process. NI, and therefore INFJs, will often want something to be a very specific way. They'll have a plan or vision that they don't want to deviate from because they think that's the best approach. If it can't be that way they want it, it can bother them a lot. NE, and therefore INTPs, by comparison, can struggle to stick to one path or plan because they keep seeing more and more options and possibilities, new ways of doing things they originally planned, or just new plans altogether. They will often keep reworking and updating the original idea. So ask yourself, are you more attached to the outcome or the process? How long does it take for you to decide on something, a direction, a path, a plan, a conclusion? And, once that decision has been made, how much stress and anxiety does deviating from that cause you?